Today we're going to talk about Judas Priest and one of my favorite guitar solos by Glenn Tipton, A Touch of Evil. Glenn's playing is so unique and distinctive, and over the years with Judas Priest, he's delivered a ton of memorable guitar solos. What makes this solo on A Touch of Evil such a standout for me is how it blends melody, passion, and intensity with lines that are both creative and intricate. And from a compositional standpoint, it's absolutely brilliant. There's a whole lot that we can learn by studying a solo like this. For example, how and where to use vibrato in order to give your phrases a particular feel or vibe. The tasteful use of chromatics as a way of adding color or flavor. And how to pace and develop a solo where you're gradually building tension so that the ending feels like a big climactic release. But the main thing we're going to be focusing on in this video is what I think is the biggest takeaway: thematic development. So the idea is to introduce a melody or a melodic theme and then bring it back in different spots. Now each time you change it just enough so that it feels fresh while still giving the listener something familiar to hold on to. That way it never sounds repetitive or redundant. Now I have a full playthrough of the solo with the backing track, and that's linked in this video's description and also in the end screen. And what I'm going to do now is I'll go through the solo unaccompanied, and as we go along I'll explain the key points that I think are really worth paying particular attention. But first, let's take a quick look at the accompaniment, because that is the structure that holds everything together, and it's what provides the harmonic context. A good accompaniment just lends itself to better, more interesting lead playing, and Judas Priest really nailed it on this song. So we're in the key of E minor, and this is a 4-chord progression over 8 bars. Now the first 6 bars are just going to be alternating between the 1 chord E and the 6 chord C. Now they're not playing the chords just straightforward like that, they're doing a little bit of embellishment in the background to keep it interesting, like, you know, things like that. But for argument's sake and just to keep it simple, we're just going to look at the actual chords. So this is a typical chord progression in the Aeolian mode, or natural minor, right? Just going from the 1 chord to the 6 chord. But where it gets interesting is on the 7th and 8th bar, because from there they go to the 4 chord, the A. That's not the typical thing to do in metal. And then from there, they're going to go to B, the 5 chord. And then they go right back to the beginning of the progression, back to E. So this is a little bit unusual for heavy metal. You might find this a little bit more in neoclassical kind of things, but in standard metal, a little bit less. And it's really interesting the way they did this from a compositional standpoint, because what's happening is they're lulling you. They're putting you in a sense of comfort, and, you know, you kind of, it's almost a hypnotic feel. You're kind of just grooving with it, you know, where he's going from that E to that C chord. So right, that makes you comfortable, it lulls you in. And then they make it a little more intense when you least expect it by going to that A chord. So it creates just a little bit of tension, and the way that leads really nicely back to the loop makes it the kind of thing where it just keep going on forever. So Glenn has this really great canvas to work on, but what he does with it is nothing short of spectacular. So let's take a look at the solo. So right from the beginning, he introduces the main melodic theme. And right away he plays it again, but already it morphs a little bit. Back to the beginning. And now it changes a little bit again. So that's the first part. Now we're going to start the next section with the second iteration of it, but an octave higher. So that's already interesting because the tension is building up already, right? And also listen to where the vibrato is. So all those other notes don't have any vibrato at all. Normally a guitarist might be tempted to play vibrato on more notes, but by putting it just on those main notes, it makes it a little bit more intense, and it feels a little bit colder on some of those parts, right? It's got a different phrasing than what you would do if you would start. That would be a little too much, and it would start being redundant. But by having that vibrato on just those two notes, it has kind of this sliding forward kind of vibe. That's really interesting. Now he's going to repeat that again. Just a little bit different. And here, this is a really cool lick. Pretty cool, right? And now we're going to do something really neat. An octave jump. And here's where we're going to get some chromatic work. So this is kind of a harmonic minor thing, right? It's in key, except there's the sharp seventh, right? We get a D sharp. Really cool. It gives it kind of a neoclassical flavor. And then the next part, he's going to add the flat five. So that's kind of a blues thing, but it doesn't really sound bluesy. It's just more of an exotic vibe, especially coming off that harmonic minor part, right? And now we're going to go back to that main theme once again. So this time, yet another octave higher. So we started over here, and then we went an octave higher, right? And now we're going another octave higher. So this is where the intensity really starts to build. And there's something else. This melodic theme is going on the whole time in the background, because if you listen carefully to the backing track, you know, removing the original lead guitar, or even without doing that, just if you listen really carefully, you'll hear there's another guitar playing this melody continuously, like something like that in the background the whole time. And it's really, really interesting the way that happens. You don't really notice it, but you feel it. And it just creates this really hypnotic vibe. Okay, so after that part, so where did we hear that before, right? So it's the same kind of thing, but a third up, or an 11th up in this case, because it's an octave higher. But it's the same thing, reiterated, just slightly different. And now we're getting close to the ending. This is really cool with the kind of slow bends. You really got to get that vibe there. It can't just be like, it has to be a little bit slow, and you got to kind of scoop those bends, you know, like kind of just go into it that way, like. And now we're getting to that last part. And again, where have we heard that before? That's the introduction of the song. That's the very start of the song, that first melody, where he's ending the solo with that. So that's a really cool thing to do. So he's also going to reiterate that part a little bit differently with the stretched lick. And end with that tapped phrase. What a cool way to end a solo. I can never overstate the importance of paying closer attention to a solo like this one, either as a listener or as a guitar player. As a listener, you'll develop a deeper appreciation for the music so that you can enjoy it on a deeper level. And as a guitar player, if you're learning the solo, understanding what was the intention behind the phrases and those little subtleties will allow you to perform it more faithfully and with more emotional intent, so that your audience can truly perceive the feel behind the notes. So I hope you really enjoyed this, and thank you so much for watching. Cheers.